Yes, people, what is going on? Hope you are all good. We are doing a quick roundup of everything that has happened in the World Cup so far. Of course, the group stages are now over. We've actually had one of the knockout games. Congratulations to Canada being the first team to go through to the round of 16. Not a result that I sort of expected to happen. I have to be honest. I didn't see that they would be one of the first teams to go through, but they have gone through. They're in the last 16. I am joined by Cameron Duggan. What do you make of the first team that has gone through to the round of 16 just before we get on to everything that happened in the group stages?
Well, I thought it was a very boring game, considering it's the first knockout. I think both teams were just playing very safe compared to what we have seen of them, where, you know, South Africa would be a counter-attacking team, especially in the last couple of games. They were trying to do that, but they were very much like, okay, we're in a position, let's try and play it back, keep the ball up before we put it into the box, where if they were just that bit quicker, you know, they could have created a few more chances. Than Canada, you know, we've seen them blow Qatar away, we've seen them, you know, play good football against Switzerland despite going down early against them. So it was a frustrating game to watch, knowing that both teams could have done more. And then it was getting to the point in the game, obviously Canada scored late to win it with a fine strike, and my reaction to it wasn't, oh my god, what a goal, you know, well done Canada. It was like, thank God I don't have to watch another half hour of this. Because
I completely agree with that, because you are so right. I think the thing that, you know, maybe one of the biggest things that we've learned, shall we say, if we want to do it in that angle. But I mean, I think some of these round of 32 games are going to be absolutely dreadful, and I think that was just the first one. Just because some of the teams that have gone through, who they're playing against, I just think it's going to be awkward. I think this is the stage where we start moaning about the 48-team World Cup. In the group where you know you're getting some big nations play against others, I think people have sort of just ignored it. But now you're getting into the latter rounds, I feel like this is where the tournament needs to take a step up, and I don't think it did. But we'll move on away from there, because we've got plenty, of course, of knockout football to come. A lot of it, fun enough. I think there's 31 games left now of the World Cup, so a lot for us to talk about in that regard. So we'll go on to what has already happened. I've just got a table up in front of me, so I'm just going to go through that. These are the teams in third place that went through, because this is what I do want to talk about. Democratic Republic were the first seed. This is all in order. So it's Democratic Republic of Congo, Sweden, Ghana, Ecuador, Bosnia, Algeria, Paraguay, Senegal. They are all the teams that went through. The four that didn't, that I do just want to briefly mention, obviously a fair few teams, of course, come bottom of their group, not going through. But the four that didn't go through was Iran, South Korea, Uruguay, and where I personally want to start, Cameron, is Scotland, because Scotland, of course, one of the home nations for us in terms of being in the UK. They really did not live up to the expectation, and you know, we spoke very briefly before we started this, Cameron. We just think it was the fixture list that pretty much did them in, but I would like to see more from Scotland. They were in a very tough group, but I still think they should have had enough to get out of this group, and they didn't.
Yeah, because you're looking at Scotland on paper, they've probably got, you know, a very strong squad compared to what they've ever had before. They've got, you know, a Serie A player of the season in their team. They've got, you know, Liverpool's longest, one of their longest serving players for the last bit, who, you know, left back Robin Rutson, who, you know, have been fantastic Champions League winner, Premier League winner.
John McGinn, you had loads of people. I think the big one they actually missed, sorry Cameron to interrupt, the one I think they really missed in this was actually the midfield partner for that Serie A player of the season. I think that Billy Gilmour getting injured before the tournament, I think maybe really damaged them in terms of being able to keep the ball and keep things ticking. Obviously, we will never know that to be 100% certainty, but Billy Gilmour, I think for them was a really, really big miss as well.
Yeah, but then it's like you also look at who they had in their group then as well. You know, Brazil, Morocco, both teams I think were in the top 10 FIFA World Rankings. And then obviously Haiti, who, you know, international minnows, if you want to put it that way. But we were saying beforehand that we think their fixture list kind of messed them up a bit, like playing Haiti first when obviously it's Haiti's first game as well. They're up for it. They're only the 1-0. I think if they had played them last, similar to Senegal's situation where they played France and Norway first, then they had to play them in as Iraq, knowing what they had to do to get through, I think that could have worked out fine for them. I mean, Scotland in the end, if they, obviously they got beat heavily by Brazil. Even if they just lost 1-0, they still would have gone out due to how everything worked out in that third place table. So again, it's just a case of they had to have beaten Haiti by more. Whether it had been in that first game where a lot of people expected Scotland to probably score more anyway, rather than waiting for the last match day thinking, okay, we need to score X amount of goals to give us a really good chance of going through.
I think actually that game against Haiti was the biggest problem for Scotland, I have to be honest. And I think I do want to talk about him just very briefly because I don't want to spend so much time on Scotland. But for me, Scotland's first game was the crucial one. And I think that nobody really realised that until it was too late. And I think that the most important thing about it, and I do want to give some massive praise, because Scotland with the football obviously is one thing, and they did not deliver. But the one thing that Scotland did deliver on was the party. Of course, it was the Tartan Army taking over Boston and Miami, and it was immense. And, I, as a British person, I love to see, British people going anywhere, whether it had been the Welsh, whether it had been the Irish as well. I've got a lot of Irish family friends, Scottish, anyone from the sort of British Isles and Ireland, I love to see do well in tournaments. But the reason why is because the fans of those places are absolutely excellent. But the Tartan Army have been absolutely wonderful for this World Cup. And I actually think that although, yes, the Tartan Army turning up at Fenway Park, turning up at Lone Depot Park, the Miami Marlins Stadium, two fantastic bits of social media coverage that have gone completely viral. The bars, the drinking, all of that stuff, they've really embraced the culture of a World Cup, which we had no doubt in our mind about at all. Absolutely no doubt in our mind. And the Americans, they've massively loved the Scots. They've got a very defensive actually over the Scots now that the British have come in. The English have come in, I should say, to take over Boston. Obviously, England's one of England's group games being played in Boston. There seems to be a lot of love and a lot of affinity for Scotland, and I feel like that was the talking point for the whole of the World Cup. And actually, it just massively overshadowed the fact that in the first game, they won. Everyone was in a party mood. Of course they were, because Scotland need to win a World Cup game to have any chance to go through. And they did give themselves half a chance. But obviously now, knowing what we know, it was never, ever going to be enough. And I think that maybe the Scottish party slightly overshadowed the fact that Scotland really didn't have a hope in hell of going through in this group, especially after, that first game. But you are completely right, Cameron. I feel like if they'd have played Haiti last, knowing that they needed to go and win 3-0, they'd have gone all out attack and they'd have properly enjoyed it. But just to sort of round off on Scotland, because again, they've been one of my favourite things to watch. My girlfriend is absolutely raging at me for the amount of times I've kept showing her clips of the Tartan Army, particularly in Miami, as I am a Miami Marlins fan. So them being at my baseball stadium is very, very cool. But I think the idea that the Tartan Army has turned up and revolutionised a lot of people's attitudes towards football in the United States, I think that is something that we have to take a massive amount of pride in, being British. But we don't want to take it away. It's not England's achievement. I'm an England fan, of course, when it comes to football. Scotland fans and their atmosphere have been absolutely immaculate. So really, really well done to Scotland. For the fans, unfortunately, on the pitch, really did not deliver. But another thing, moving on from Scotland, because I don't want to spend forever on them. South Korea, I mean, just very quickly, Cameron, really let me down. I thought they'd be a lot better. And they absolutely bottled it in the game against South Africa, where they decided to not go for it. Iran, the team who were on the wrong end of the result, not last night before, with the two late goals from Algeria and Austria. Weird circumstances for them to go out, but again, we'll move past that. Of the teams that have gone through in the third place, the eighth place teams, who do you think, Cameron, is the best of, Democratic Republic, Congo, Sweden, Ghana, Ecuador, Bosnia, Algeria, Paraguay, Senegal? Because for me, Senegal are the best nation in this, and they're the ones that finished bottom.
Yeah, it was a weird one to see. Obviously, Senegal were put into probably the toughest group out there with France and Norway, and I think they knew that as well coming into it. They're like, it'd be very tough. Like France probably lose. Norway was probably their best chance against bigger teams to actually get a win, and that was a very close game in the end. Okay, Norway were a bit comfortable in the second half towards the end of it before Senegal pulled back their second. It was a case of, right, we can now, show off in the last game against Iraq, show what we can do. They scored 5 goals and they were immense the whole game. I'd like to say up there with them for the best team is Ecuador. Now, they had a very slow start to this tournament.
Very slow start.
Very slow start, losing 1-0 to Ivory Coast in the last minute, then drawing to Curacao, which is just a great story for Curacao anyway. But then they needed to come into this last match day against Germany and win to get through.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it. And the whole game, they were amazing. That early goal obviously would have been a bit of a kick in the teeth, knowing, okay, we need to go through to win, concedes in the second minute. That would have shaped the whole game up immensely for them already. But it's an Ecuador team we kind of expected. They were good defensively, but then they were actually showing a lot more in attack than what they had done the last 2 games. And I thought they were better than Germany on the day. And it's not like Germany played their second team either. Germany still kind of had to make sure they finished top. So it's like they still put out, their strongest.
A reasonable side, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, this wasn't like an easy game for Ecuador at all, but they managed to do it. They managed to set themselves up against a tie against Mexico now at Mexico City, which would be a tough game for them. But I think if they can get through, get some kind of momentum, there'll be a problem. But then Senegal as well, if they, they've got Belgium. Belgium haven't looked great apart from their last game against New Zealand, who they won comfortably, which we expected them to. That's
the standard that we should be holding Belgium to. They have underperformed, but they lived up to what we would expect in that last game.
So those are the 2 I'd be looking at. The rest of them haven't impressed me at all. I think Congo's done well to get out of the group of Portugal and Colombia. Sweden
and will play England is the thing. I think I would agree. I think that DR Congo are maybe, I don't want to say the most rounded from what I've seen so far. Like, I can clearly see where their strengths are. I can clearly see where their weaknesses are. That's absolutely fine. We can say that about every single nation in the 8 that went through. Maybe other than Senegal, potentially, because I think Senegal, again, I just think they probably are the best team that are in there.
Yeah, I think paper, 100% they're the best team on paper.
Yeah, and I think when you start to, again, look through sorry, I've just taken away the list as I've gone to the next round. Again, you look at the likes of Sweden, can score goals when they go forward. Ghana, they have attacking flair. Other than that, I mean, the other nations, it's just a bit sort of, well, yeah, I can see why they went through, but there's also a lot of holes. I think the big thing, about this, and just to sort of round off this section, is going now into this knockout round, as we're now going to start to talk about. We're in a position now where we've got a lot of these third place teams are not up to the standard of the teams they're playing against. So, for example, just off the top of my head, Germany playing against Paraguay. Paraguay not as good as I thought they were going to be. I thought they were going to be more of a problem. Germany will absolutely go and batter them. It's not a game that we're really worried about. And I think that, as we're now talking about the World Cup, we're talking about the top end of sport here, and I feel like a lot of people have been enjoying the football because they want to see the attacking elements and they think that this is fun and it's an inclusive game for everyone, which is of course the message of the World Cup. But I think the attentions have to turn now into being brutally honest, and it's brutal football. And Germany will go and whack Paraguay, as there'll be other games as well. France will whack Sweden. Again, I could just start going down and down and down and down and down about how some of the teams will definitely go out and others won't. It's just the awkward thing, of course, now having more teams in the competition. But just to sort of round off, the group stages as such, the big nations, maybe bar one, maybe you throw Uruguay in there, they all pretty much expected to go through. They have all gone through. I mean, African football was it 9 out of 10 that have gone through, or was it 10 out of 11 that's gone through?
I think it was just Tunisia let them down.
Yeah, it was just Tunisia. Obviously now South Africa, of course, bowed out of the competition as well.
Yeah,
of
they
course,
still got
but that
through.
was exactly, of course, that was in a knockout game. But African football's done really well. Fair play to them. Asian football seems to be again lacking behind, with Japan being, of course, the sort of big shining light of that. Of course, they've got a very, very tough game against Brazil, which they could very easily win.
I mean,
I
you've
would
got
not want to
to-
put money on it, though.
You've got to remember, Japan have beaten Brazil recently.
Yeah, but
I
everyone
know it
keeps
was a
saying this.
friendly.
It's in a friendly. It's a friendly. I'm not saying any. I'm not saying anything until I see it in a competitive game, because I do agree. I feel like there is a chance that Japan and Brazil genuinely have a really, really good game, but the friendly is still a friendly, because I looked at that and I looked at other nations as well, and I keep getting sort of caught out by it. So I think that when the level of expectation then lifts up, then it will look a little bit different. But based off of what we've seen in the group so far, Cameron, I don't know if we want to go through game by game, because we would be here for an eternity. But if you had to say two teams that you thought they are going to go very, very far, forget the favourites, forget England, France, Spain, because I think everyone now, as of right now, is saying that they are probably the three front runners. I'll throw Argentina in there as well, the four front runners. So excluding them four, of the other 32 teams, obviously now minus South Africa, is there anyone else that you think actually they could be the team that pushes really, really far? Or is there any teams you actually think they're going to go out really, really early and they're just going to massively flop your expectations?
I think going far, I mean, before the tournament started, I was a really big fan of the Netherlands, and I feel like, they had a tough first game against Japan. I mean, they had taken the lead twice in that game, and, were unlucky towards the end where Japan equalised. But then the other two games, they were very comfortable, really on it, always started brightly, scoring early goals, made it easy for themselves.
I'm glad you said that word, because I was going to say they made it look easy. Easy was the perfect word I was going to say, so I'm glad you've said that.
But it's not because, the opposition, but it's because they got the job done early, so they could relax that bit more. Which I think helped then in the latter. But I think they still have a chance of going far on the left side of the draw. I think USA probably could get to a quarterfinals, given how everything's shaped up nicely. They will have a tougher game against Belgium or
very nicely they've been set up.
Yeah.
Very nicely.
But again, it's still a Belgium or Senegal then in the round of 16, which would be a tough tie. But I'd still right now back them to get through. I think teams that probably let me down. Probably.
I'll say it. Portugal. Portugal. I think Portugal have let me down. Personally.
Yeah, I mean, we were expecting a lot more from them in that when we done our early predictions. Anyway, we thought they topped the group and probably get to the final and win the whole thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, forget top the group. We had them to just come second in this thing, didn't we? I'm pretty sure.
So it's like they've been a massive letdown. They've got a tough game against Croatia in that first one, and then they'll probably have Spain then in the round of 16. So it's one of those ones where they've now made themselves a little bit tougher, but this is knockout football. Show up on the day. They have the players to do it. But I wouldn't be surprised now if they went out at the round of 32, just given how bad they were in the group stage.
But having said that, we talk about squad, we talk about professional football, we talk about the top end.
Yeah.
Portugal squad has got the ability to go toe to toe with anyone in this competition.
100%.
So you would, as much as I agree, I do think they might struggle even in the round of 32. I don't think they get past the round of 16 if I took my money on it. But you wouldn't be surprised if they did go and manage to upset Spain in around a 16 game or something like that. I feel like when you've got those teams of quality, they're up there for a reason. But when I'm looking at other games, I'm looking at United States versus Bosnia and Ivory Coast, Norway. Genuinely is going to be a very interesting game. Oh, don't, please, God, no! I'm not a fan of it. Not a fan.
Love it.
Hate it. I want to love it, but it's just not a bit of me. It's very Eurovision, so I feel like I should like
that's
it.
why it's a bit of me.
Ivory Coast, Norway, genuinely another very interesting game. Actually, quite not matched, but quite
closer,
decent. Quite interesting to see who potentially would go through.
Mexico, and Ecuador probably be in the same boat as closeness.
And
then even towards the other side of it, Australia, Egypt. Okay, they're probably the two lowest ranking teams that are like playing each other.
Yeah.
But again, that should be a really good game because Australia
And-
have
and-
got some good players. Egypt have Mo Salah, Marmoush, who can create things out of nothing. So like you expect a bit more. The rest of them, Switzerland should beat Algeria, Colombia should beat Ghana. Obviously,
Well,
England-
there is one that I do just want to mention as we sort of round off this sort of like round off of the round of 32 game. Essentially, there's a lot. I've said round a lot there.
round.
Round.
A ball's round.
A ball is round. I can agree. Your head's round and all. I love the idea of Argentina, Cape Verde. I just think the storyline element is so good. For Senior, of course, in the first game, you know, making a name for himself, and of course they've gone through with 3 draws, which if you look back at a video, I do say at some point, which I do want to try and get a clip of, I do say I would love it if Cape Verde went through with 3 draws, and they bloody did get in. But him making a name for himself at the start of the tournament and coming out and saying before the tournament the one team wanted to play is Argentina. They're never going to get through a proper knockout game of football, bless them. But if they are going out, they're going out in the best circumstances that Vitinha could ever hope for, because they're going up against Lionel Messi in Miami. Well, I mean, literally Messi's home, perfect sort of scenario. And there'll be a lot. The atmosphere at Hard Rock Stadium will be absolutely immense for that one. But essentially, you know, that storyline and. You know, this is the good thing about the 48 teams in the World Cup. That storyline is something that is so good and something that does need to sort of have attention and light shown onto it. And the fact that you've now got Cape Verde, who no one gave a single hope. I think we had them getting battered, you know, in the group. I can't remember how many goals we actually put it down to, but I mean, we thought they were going to get absolutely trounced.
Yeah.
They've gone through a second. They've now get this dream tie. I mean, as much as I have been saying, yeah, football is, you know, World Cup football now is about the latter rounds and it's about being the top of the top of the top. This is still probably going to be one of my favourite stories from this match day, is the fact that, you know, the legendary goalkeeper of Vitinha, whose mum wasn't even allowed into the country, is now keeping clean sheets in World Cups and is now in line to go and play Argentina and Lionel Messi, the defending champions and the greatest of all time, in a round of 32 game where they know they are going to get knocked out of the World Cup at some point. But the privilege to be able to play a team like that must be absolutely incredible on the world's biggest stage. That I could not even begin to feel about how he is feeling, because I mean, that for him and of course everyone in that Cape Verde team is the stuff of dreams, isn't it?
Oh yeah, this is the kind of matchups you want to see in a World Cup. Like even in the knockouts, you know, the biggest teams, you know, coming up against, you know, the massive underdogs, say, who have impressed everyone so far in this tournament. So this is where Cape Verde's run will come to an end, unfortunately.
Of course it will.
But they've obviously been the story of the World Cup so far, and I think it's also deserving that they get to play a big team and go out to them, knowing that, like, okay, Argentina, you know, probably going to get to the semi-finals. We went out to the World Cup semi-finalists. There's no shame in that at all.
Yeah, 100%. Last World Cup, when England got beaten by France, again, England should have beaten France, but we went on to lose to the finalists, and the finalists only lost on penalties as well. You know, you've got to put that context into it. We do it at the highest level. 100% Cape Verde should be doing it as well.
Yes,
but, you know, go on.
Yeah, so I think just to wrap this kind of bit up, it's just like, you know, we've enjoyed Cape Verde so much. The fact they've even gone out of the group was amazing. The fact that they got their first World Cup points was amazing. Their first World Cup goals were amazing. You know, obviously they haven't quite had a win, which probably would have, you know, been that extra cherry on top. But I mean, the fact they've gotten to around 32, playing against the best of the best, and Argentina will be respecting them when they play as well. That's also, I think, going to be key, because, you know, you can easily go into Argentina players like, oh, we're just playing Cape Verde, you know, this will be easy for us. But, like, they've seen what they've done already against Spain, against Uruguay to get through. So, like, you know what, we actually need to be on our A game here. We need to start Messi in this game just to make sure, you know, we go through.
Yeah, you are completely right, and just even thinking about that, because you are, so spot on there. I can't remember now off the top of my head. Please remind me, who was the other team in their group?
The other team in their group was Saudi Arabia.
So in their 4 World Cup games that they will play, Saudi Arabia, okay, fine, we'll forget about that.
Yeah.
But Uruguay, Spain, and Argentina, for a team that has made the World Cup for the very first time, that I think generally can't believe that they're even there. I mean, that's great. That's absolutely brilliant. That's the sort of thing that you would hope for if you're in the group of death. Like, that's the sort of thing you'd hope for. But never in a million years do you think you would go and get Uruguay, Argentina, and Spain to be the teams that you play against. Is incredible. Fair play to them. And I love this story. I love the fact that Cape Verde have done as well as they have. I love the people back at home in Cape Verde that have painted. I don't know if you've seen this. They've painted the Broadwalk in Cape Verde with a massive picture of Vicinha all over the floor.
Yes,
their tourism and everything is going to go up. It's such a iconic moment for a very, very small nation, and a very, very good holiday destination as well. So again, their tourism and their main sort of main source of income as a nation is going to be tourism, and it's going to fly off this World Cup. Genuinely revolutionary what is happening for them at this World Cup. But just to round off this video, Cameron, we've spoken about the round of 32 briefly. We've spoken about the groups. I just want a little prediction from you now, based off of what you've seen at this World Cup so far, to round off the video, based off of what you've seen, who wins the World Cup? Ooh. Actually, no, do you know what? I'm going to change that completely. Based off of what you've seen so far, who are your final 4?
Oh, that's nicer, because I think the finalists...
It is a nicer question, because, yeah.
A bit tougher. I think Spain from the bottom left side will go through. I think the USA will give them a really tough game, because I think that's how far they'll get, to see who gets into the semi-final. The other side, I think, obviously you got Germany, France, Netherlands. I mean, I'm still backing Netherlands to get to the semi-final.
Okay, so you have France going out early. Okay, fine.
France will go out to the Netherlands in the quarter. That's how it looks.
Okay,
so it's going to be either one of them two, I think. But I still want to say Netherlands. The bottom right side, Argentina. The toughest game will be Colombia, and that will only be in the quarterfinal. Everyone else in that bit, is beatable, especially with the quality they have. And the top right side is really just between England and Brazil, I'm imagining. And I think England will do it. England will get to the semi-final.
I am going to throw a rogue one out here.
So for me, it's England, Argentina, Spain and Netherlands would be the final 4.
I am going to throw a rogue one out here. Based off of what I've seen, I'm not impressed by England.
I'm not impressed by England, but they've never been impressive, but they always get the job done. So I'm going to throw out my 4. I want to get your genuine opinion on this. So my final 4 for the World Cup as it currently stands, right? France, I do think they get through against the Netherlands. Fair.
Spain, 100% you're right. They will end up going through the other side. So I think it's a France-Spain semi-final. Could be genuinely the game of the tournament. I think that Argentina go through.
Yeah.
Right? Absolutely fine. Don't disagree with that.
Oh, I can see where you're going already.
Go on.
Norway
are my team that I have a weird feeling that are going to end up getting to a semi-final. And I think that Brazil, from what I've seen, I think they're going to grow into the tournament, but I don't think they're there yet. I know Vinicius Jr. is on 4 goals. They look okay, but they need to sort of take that next step, which they might do in a knockout game. They might look really convincing doing so. So that might be an irrelevant thing. But Norway, I just feel like they rested, obviously, for the 3rd game of the group. They're going to be all out to go for it, and they've looked really good. Even in the games that they've lost, they've looked really good, in playing the football that they do. So I genuinely am very, very impressed by them, and I think that Norway are going to cause a real problem. And I have to say, I think that England's defensive problems and their attacking issues, I think the issues they will be able to deal with defensively when it comes to Harry Kane and Bukayo Saka and all of that lot, that again I just don't think that England are doing enough. I feel Norway are going to deal with them effectively, and I feel like going forward they might rip us apart, and very quickly this game could disappear from England because of Erling Haaland, Sorloth, Strand Larsen and a couple of other big names who genuinely will test our back line. So I have a weird feeling that we could be on for an upset where Norway knock out England, but time will tell. Time will tell. Cameron, thank you very much for joining me. If you're new around here, make sure you like, share and subscribe, and check out all of our World Cup content coming here on Craigo 28.